Hello, welcome to the Pop Culture Clash, the PCC. We are back after a 2-week hiatus. All those next-gen shenanigans impacted our resources here at GT Towers. But we have a show. Oh, boy, howdy do we have a show. And joining me for the first half of the show, Megan Rue.
Hello.
And Brandon Jones.
Hello. We're talking like this for this segment.
Are we all
Trying
talking?
to be fake Clara.
I am not going to be doing an American accent. I did that a couple of weeks ago. Never again. But what we are talking about is... That's right, Doctor Who. We're going to talk about the Day of the Doctor, which was obviously the 50th anniversary special that aired on November the 23rd. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Christmas special that's been teased. But I mean, if you know, these are the fellow GT Whovians. These are the classiest people in the joint, basically.
These are all mine.
And these are the toys. Some of these came back from Cardiff with me for Megan when I went to the Doctor Who experience. So we watched the Day of the Doctor. We saw Matt Smith, David Tennant, and John Hurt. We saw the War Doctor. We saw, I mean, and let's face it, if you haven't seen this by now,
Don't be watching this.
yeah, don't be watching this first half of the show. But seriously, watch it. We watched what they did to Gallifrey. There was some serious messing with the canon there, but first of all, did you like it?
Absolutely. I enjoyed it immensely. I watched it at home, and then I had the privilege of being one of those people who went and saw it in 3D in the theater on Monday. And I enjoyed it both times, and it hits in the right places, and people were laughing in the right places. I mean, I went in a little scared, and I think, you know, the Matt Smith-David Tennant combo actually worked quite well. And then John Hurt in there just being the complete straight man just made it just perfect.
It was pretty good. Brandon?
Yeah, I loved it a lot. I think every time I watch a Doctor Who special or just a normal episode, it's always like a struggle to try to find that line between I don't care too much about what's happening. You know, it's just really kind of a fun adventure through different time periods. But at the same time, there is that plot through line, and you do care about the Doctor. You care about the people he cares about. And so it's kind of tough for me to ride that back and forth. And I thought it was great. Like, I think a lot of people thought it was kind of silly with the way the whole thing wrapped up at the end. Kind of a little too neatly, the way Who can sometimes. But it was right up my alley. When they all got together at the end and like, you know, you see all the blue screens and you see all of them at the controls and sparks are going. Like, that put a big smile on my face. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the entire episode. I thought David Tennant and Matt Smith worked off each other so well. Mm-hmm. And like you said, John Hurt, basically, I love John Hurt for so many reasons in Doctor Who. I mean, one, yeah, he was the straight grumpy Doctor, of which I can totally appreciate. Two, for the first time in history, I have a Doctor Who that I can cosplay, which is great.
I saw that tweet.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it was... The story was great. It was all wrapped up. It was wrapped up very nicely. It was meant to be a one-off. There were so many things just from the beginning. The fact that, you know, it starts off recreating the start of an unearthly child, the very first episode of Doctor Who. The school is there. If you look at the Board of Governors, the head of the Board of Governors is Ian Chesterton, who was one of the first companions. Clara rides her bike off to meet the Doctor at 5:16 p.m., which was the time the very first episode of Doctor Who launched. So there was so many, you know, bits of fan service. We saw the museum later, we saw the fairs, but we saw lots of the cool stuff. And then, of course, I mean, I was smiling the entire time, but when we got to that very end and the curator appears, and I was watching with my wife, and we had a couple of friends over, and I just grabbed her leg and I just squeezed. I couldn't stop smiling as soon as I heard Tom Baker's voice, because he was my first Doctor.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, David Tennant was your first, or Chris Eccleston, or whatever. But as a 4-year-old boy growing, living in Wales, the first Doctor I remember is Tom Baker. And I've got almost all his episodes on DVD, and some of them stand the test of time. Some of them are kind of racist and offensive and sexist now. But still, he was my Doctor. He is my Doctor. And to see them have this ultimate bit of fan service and have that guy in there, that just made it for me. And, you know, it's something, yeah, it sucked that we didn't get to see all the other Doctors in their, you know, current incarnations. We didn't get to see Torchwood or anything like that. But as a celebration of Doctor Who, I thought it was everything I hoped it would be and more.
And I think that's really important to the continuation of the show. Reminds me of how Leonard Nimoy was in the first Star Trek film, and seeing him opposite the new Kirk, really kind of cemented that it was kind of like passing the guard. He's handing off the torch, being like, "I approve this. He gets my Spock seal of approval." And to have him there, even though it doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense, it's like, why is he there and looks old? But it doesn't matter. I thought it was a really great gesture, and I think there was that kind of attitude surrounding the 50th anniversary as a whole. That's like, whether this makes sense or not, or whether this is really where you wanted the story to go. It's like, it's been 50 years. Like, let's take this opportunity to get as much stuff in there as we possibly can, and I thought they did.
Well, they also, on top of doing all of that and giving nods to the past, they also opened up the possibility of more past references of happening, and they also set up a brand new future. They actually gave a waypoint to head towards, whereas, honestly, in recent years, it has just kind of been a bit of faffing about. Like, it hasn't.
It's been all about the companions.
Yeah.
It hasn't been about the Doctor. The Doctor's like, well, I don't want this person to die, and so then he's just chasing, Clara or other people around.
But I think that's always been the thing, from 2005 on, is that the companions are what grounds him. But I will
grind him.
I will say I love the way they used Rose Tyler. I was terrified that she was just going to be all right there, Governor Chimney, and using Billie Piper as this conscience character. I thought worked really well. Clara was not overused, which was perfect because it was all about the doctors. I do agree that at the end when Tom Baker's talking and he does make the reference about revisiting other old faces, that is exciting to me because maybe we'll this will still be the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who when we see the Christmas special. And will we have McCoy, the Davidsons, Paul McGann? We won't see Eccleston because he's climbed up his own arse.
Oh, God. He was the only glaring omission. Everyone else, through either the 50th special or specials that ran on the side, like the Paul McGann intro, essentially, to the 50th. There was also the 5-ish Doctors. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, he's the only one who, he's disassociated himself from Doctor Who. And, he served the purpose of, the Ninth Doctor, if you will. But he has forever kind of tainted himself by just being such a curmudgeon and thinking that he's bigger than all that. So, he can go off and do whatever he wants. He's no great loss. Let's talk about how this fits, because we were talking just before we started. The Day of the Doctor, kind of fits in its own bubble because at the end of the last season we had the Name of the Doctor, which finished up with the Doctor and Clara in his time stream having just defeated the Great Intelligence, and now we have the start of this next one where she's a teacher. She's got a teaching gig, and he's calls her to go off on a wild adventure, and they're not obviously within the timeline. And now we've seen the trailer for the next one, the Christmas one, which is Trenzalore, Silence Will Fall, the fall of the 11th. We know that Peter Capaldi is coming in as Doctor 13 or 12 or whichever, whatever number he is. We even saw him there, that little bit of, incredible eyebrows.
Incredible, intense eyebrows.
He's going to be, we've had the chin, we've had the skinny boy in the suit, we've had the skinhead, the scarf, now we've got the eyebrows. Those are the best eyebrows since Patrick Troughton, in fact, I think, in Doctor Who. But yeah, does the Day of the Doctor, is this one of these things that is now sitting within its own bubble because it does mess with a lot of canon? It does take the Time War and say, all right, well, the Daleks destroyed themselves in the Time War, but we've seen the Daleks come back. And now Gallifrey is out there. It's trapped in its own microcosm. And is that going to be the 12th or 13th Doctor's goal to restore Gallifrey? Does he want to restore Gallifrey? Because they were arseholes.
Well, but it's not the first time we've dealt with Gallifrey being stuck in a bubble. That was the whole point behind The Master with the last of David Tennant's series, where it was letting them through a portal and getting them free, and the Master going, you know what, you guys are not cool, and I'm not going to, and lock them back up. So it's not like it hasn't already been referenced before that they have been stuck in this little time stasis.
Well, no, he was pulling them out of the Time War. They were pulling themselves out of the Time War, but now they are locked in this moment, the moment, if you will.
Right.
I think there's a lot of great questions. It's not only does he want to save Gallifrey, but like how can you save Gallifrey? Even if he finds a way to unlock this thing and a way to like open up that period of time so they can continue on, it's still kind of frozen in time. So the war is still happening. It's not like they came to an agreement. So even if you go and
But
save Gallifrey,
Gallifrey
They
was
took
pulled
the
out.
planet, and then the Daleks shot each
yeah,
other.
the Daleks killed each
Oh,
other
okay.
because they pulled the planet
out from underneath,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's just like it's ducking and reshooting. Yeah, it's
but it's not the first time we've heard like all the Daleks are dead now.
well, this is it. The Daleks will turn up the opening of an envelope. Bless them. I'm glad we saw old school Daleks as well, and not
that
the
made me
new
so happy.
Skittles version.
But I think as far as the time stream question of the end of the name of the Doctor, I think he just grabbed Clara and then stepped right back out. I think that was.
I think
I think he only stepped in to have that revelation of like, oh my God, a new actor, and that was kind of that big reveal, and then they just moved on. But it would have been nice to have a little context as far as what happened.
Hopefully we'll see it because we know that it's on trend. It's based on Trenzalore again, so maybe we will see a little bit of that. Not Stephen Moffat doing his usual. Well, that's just kind of wrapped up. I'll put that over there.
Timey-wimey.
Wibbly wobbly and timey-wimey. To go back to Gallifrey,
Who says that?
it would be very nice if Gallifrey is returning, we get to see the Master coming back. And I also want to, say Romana, the Rani. I mean, these are Time Lord characters who haven't been woefully underused. They haven't been used in the, in the new version. The Master has, obviously, but he was kind of. I like going back to the Roger Delgado version, if you will, of the Master, who was this. He was the absolute equal of the Doctor in every way.
Yeah.
He was the nasty side of the coin,
Yeah.
as opposed to somebody who's like, "Oh, look at me! I'm a pantomime villain. I'm hungry, eating. I look at me. I have powers now. I can jump and yeah." Not Russell T Davis's finest moment, but I would like to see a Master come back. Like I said, the Rani is also she's a great evil character, and then we have Romana. We've had 2 iterations of her. Let's bring a third one back, and that to me could open up a whole new world, no pun intended, of possibilities. Just watching the Peter Capaldi Doctor, because he is an older Doctor, he is going to be a little more, I think he might even be quite an angry Doctor by the looks of it. Just being able to see him trying to make these decisions. Do I bring Gallifrey back? What's and all? Do I try and change Gallifrey?
As much as I love Tennant and how great his run was, I think this feels like a much bigger deal than when Tennant and when Matt Smith took over. Like this really,
absolutely.
ever since they rebooted the show with Eccleston, this it feels like that again. It feels like all the things that you just said sound viable now. Whereas if you brought that up a year ago, it's like I don't think they're necessarily going to do that.
Well,
but just right at 50, it seems like a perfect time to just kind of wipe the slate clean and really change things up. Make it a different show if you can.
We didn't really
Get a
had no.
different
We didn't know what to expect when David Tennant regenerated because we'd gone from Eccleston, who was a known name, the first time they'd had a really known actor, I think, since Peter Davidson come in, and everybody's like, oh, and then Tennant made the role his own. Same with Matt Smith. I mean, I was like, I was a fan of Tennant, and this young kid comes on, and I'm younger than the Doctor, for the first time ever, and it's ridiculous. And but now, I hope, and I've said this before on several, I think, podcasts, I hope we can go back to some of the darker episodes of the Tom Baker days. They had some amazing, almost like Victorian Gothic folly style episodes that were a little quite horrific in certain aspects, especially for 1970s TV. I would like to see this darker side of the Doctor. I would like to see this Doctor who is on a mission, who is perhaps, they touched on it in David Tennant on The Waters of Mars.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to see another one of those. I wanted to see him lose it. I would like to see that Doctor come back and not just be, look at me, I'm a cute guy in a suit and I got spiky hair.
I mean, the other thing with Capaldi is that he doesn't, you can already tell by knowing him, because he has a known name, he doesn't need to rely on shtick. He doesn't need to rely on, yes, there's running, that's just a classic Doctor Who thing that's kind of always existed, but he doesn't have to. He will go back to that wit and that cleverness and that.
Well, like we've had 3 very like Monster Energy drink doctors who are just like very spastic, very coked up, just like Matt Smith talks so fast, and it's just like mile a minute, and like be nice to have that was why Hurt was such an interesting change of pace, and I think Capaldi will be like that. I think like he'll mostly be commenting on these other people being weirdos around him, and he's kind of like the voice of reason. It's going to be different. I'm really excited to see what he brings to it.
And this is the first Doctor who will know that Gallifrey exists, because David Tennant, the David Tennant Doctor, he was going to forget, because obviously he steps into his TARDIS, and the next thing we know, he's stepping out with the Ood, ready to go to his final thing. Matt Smith will have probably a little inkling, but he's going to forget about it. But 13 will know, and that's gonna be. That's why we'll get a different Doctor. It's not going to be, I'm alone anymore. I'm happy. I'm sad. I need humans. I don't need humans. I'm angry. Now it's like, I have a goal.
A reason to watch.
Did we talk about the numbers? Because we're already kind of automatically calling Capaldi 13, but I'm still going to call him 10, and I'm going to call Smith 11. So we're just skipping 12? Or like,
well,
what?
no, Capaldi would be 12.
He would be 12.
Capaldi would be 12. But, I mean, yes, they've said 13, obviously, in that one section, because there was the War Doctor.
Because there was the War Doctor, yeah.
And I like calling him the War Doctor.
I'm fine with
but
that.
But, of course, Stephen Moffat, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, bless him. He's now gone and said, well, technically the regeneration of David Tennant, when he regenerated into his arm, which came, the meta crisis of the Dr. Donna, that counts as a regeneration, and the War Doctor counts as a regeneration. So I think we're on the 53rd Doctor now. I think,
and it's a matter of figuring out what stupid loopholes he's going to be like, but he'll have more because of all the ones, like we've been saying, it's either River giving all of hers, or because I've been saying, because the if you see which I guess you haven't, but Paul McGann, that wasn't a natural regeneration, it was a forced regeneration, so it didn't
and it was magic potion-y one. The other theory I have, I mean, and I've said this before, is that the Time Lords, there is no official set, as in, like, you get to 12 and that's it, next time you die for good. I think it's something that was forced on everybody by the Time Lords. I can see another workaround being that because this rule is there and the Doctor gave up regenerations or whatever, they will basically relax this rule as a reward for bringing back Gallifrey.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see. But yes, looking forward to Christmas Day.
Yep.
Looking forward to saying goodbye to Matt Smith, who he's had ups and downs, but I think he's grown into the role really well. Looking forward to what Capaldi has to offer. And, I think no better way to end this segment than going...
Affirmative.
Poop.